I have a lot to go through, so stay with me. So, a few weeks ago, I made a video about Gavin Newsom and this conspiracy theory, or really not because he just said it, about how all of these Western state governors are trying to acquire land on the cheap to put in low income housing. Well, now we have it here. Pacific Palisades rebuilding must include low income housing, Los Angeles law. Supervisors aim to suspend state laws in Altadena that could speed up higher density housing after fire. And before we get super into it, let's just go back in time to September of 2021. Governor Newsom signs a bill ending single family zoning in California, if you want to pause to read more about that. And here we go. Governor Newsom's California comeback plan will lead to over 84,000 new housing units and exits from homelessness, including today's announcement that $1.75 billion in affordable housing funding for the new California Housing Accelerator, because there's a big housing crisis. And you're going to hear this all over Western countries. There's a big housing crisis. We need more housing. We need more affordable housing. These are also the same states and countries that are importing mass amounts of illegal immigrants. In fact, from the Pew Research Center in 2022, they estimated that California currently had about 1.8 million people that are in the country illegally. They're basically trying to turn some of our most beautiful lands into communist China. They want high density, low income apartment buildings rather than single family homes. But I think that every single person would agree the American dream has always been about owning your own home, especially those single family homes that help people get started. You want your kid to have a backyard. You don't want them sitting on a porch just staring at another high density building. But that's exactly what they're trying to do to these areas. And somewhere, especially the Pacific Palisades, Altadena, those are known for being really beautiful and family places, not places where you see high density, low income housing. And I'm going to show you proof that this is exactly what they're doing. But first, let's look at during this housing crisis, during this affordability crisis, what Gavin Newsom has been trying to do. He's been trying to stop the deportation of people that are in the country illegally who would be criminals first. And you'll find that in a lot of these states that are pushing for these units, they are all sanctuary states. Democrats, okay, have left the state assembly to meet in private for a brief recess. So this is what they're trying to pass in California right now. They just scrapped it, which is good news. Gavin Newsom's special session to vote on two bills aimed at taking on Donald Trump. The first bill was to allocate $25 million for immigration-related legal services in the state with the goal of fighting back against deportations. Keep in mind, they're going after criminals first. The second bill would allocate $25 million to the California Department of Justice to help California Attorney General Rob Bonta fund their lawsuits against Donald Trump.
Illegal immigrants facing deportation.
Look at the
Tell you
date.
what the grant is for. I don't know that I can give you that level of a guarantee.
On this fund, the grants that are going to go to these nonprofit groups, what sort of activities do you anticipate they're going to do with these grants? What are they going to do with the money? Would they use our tax dollars to defend illegal immigrants from deportation proceedings? Is that part of what they do?
Oh, I'm not certain about that. I would have to defer probably.
Does someone here know?
If the deportation hearing is under a criminal justice jurisdiction, the Equal Access Fund is for civil matters.
And you're assuring us that this money is not used to defend illegal immigrants from deportation proceedings?
Again, just to reiterate, these are all legal proceedings.
Right.
Only.
So not deportation. Is deportation not a civil proceeding? Okay.
But again, it is the
don't have
intent.
clarity. This is incredibly tone deaf to be moving forward with these bills at this time when we have residents who still are not in their homes, and we should be focused on wildfire recovery, relief, and prevention. And I don't think that
The good news is, after that session, it looks like these bills got scrapped. So it says, breaking, we did it for now. California Democrats were so rattled by my amendment to bar funding for illegal immigrant criminals and politicians who protect them that they canceled their vote on the reckless $50 million to Trump proof bill. I can't talk. This is what happens when the GOP fights on a winning issue. Yes, this was so inappropriate to even introduce at this time when you have people that aren't even allowed to go back to their homes yet. $50 million to fight. And then you also want to fight to keep illegal immigrants in your state who, by the way, having a mass amounts of illegal immigrants in your state, it raises housing problems. It creates a housing crisis. Not only that, it lowers wages because all these businesses are able to hire cheap labor. How are 1.8 million people surviving in California illegally? Because they're being hired illegally. They're being paid lower wages, and they also need housing. What kind of housing are they going to need? Lower income housing. So you have these governors, and I'm going to get more into this in a second. I have proof for you. You have these governors that are literally creating a housing crisis and then forcing this hideous communist China style housing units on these areas that historically don't want that. That is not the American dream. The American dream is to be able to own your own property. But when you have a housing crisis, when you have a higher demand than what you have available, now you're creating that crisis. Also, you would probably have less traffic if you allowed some of these, at least the criminals, to be deported. Now, remember when I told you there are these governors and I have proof? First of all, I'm not going to sit here and say that anyone did this on purpose. I'm not that kind of person. But I will say that they will use and take advantage of a crisis to push their unpopular agendas, which I believe is what they're doing. So let's go to Gavin Newsom. This was Gavin Newsom. This clip went viral because people were like, what? This is Gavin Newsom as the embers were still burning, before all the fires were even put out. This is what he said on TV, very awkwardly, I might add.
Just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just.
Oh, and by the way, the smart city thing, that's not a conspiracy either. I read this whole, they basically lay it out here. I might do a video soon going through exactly what they want to do to Los Angeles. But that video, when I watched it, I got the craziest sense of deja vu because the very governor that he brought up, Josh Green, the governor of Hawaii, when the fires in Lahaina happened, a very similar video of him came out where it was just as controversial. People were like, excuse me? Same timing. Literally, while people didn't even know if their family members were alive or not. This is what Josh Green said.
About ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into workforce housing, to put it back into families, or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial to people who were lost.
And the thing is, literally nobody asked for that. Nobody asked for that. But let's fast forward for a few minutes and go to, well, we're fast forwarding from that video, but we're backtracking from January in Los Angeles. December 17th, 2024, Western state governors eye public lands for affordable housing and development. And this summit that happened in Las Vegas in December of 2024, a month before these fires took place, you had the governor of Colorado, the governor of Miami, what? The governor of Nevada, and Josh Green himself, the governor of Hawaii. And they were talking about ways in which they can acquire federal land to put low-income housing. See, in a lot of these western states, they have a huge problem because the federal government owns a lot of the land. In Nevada alone, the federal government owns 85% of the land. In California, the federal government owns about 50% of the land. And they do this for parks, recreation, wildlife, stuff like that. But they are looking at ways where they can subvert some of this stuff, buy that land on the cheap, and put all of these high density, low income housing units. They're already doing this, if you want to pause to read, in resort mountain towns in Colorado. But you see what I'm saying? They are creating this problem by mass importing low income workers and then saying we have a low income housing problem. So there it is. Do with that what you will. I think this is super fishy, but the good news is that people are waking up to this and they're like, no, thank you. We don't want a lot of ugly buildings to stare at.